flowing with the day. You have two sides of you. There's the soul, there's the ego. The soul is basically trusting of how the day is going to unravel and how you can navigate around the events of the day. The ego is the one that's filled with concern. The ego basically wants to control the events of today and all tomorrows. And you may ask yourself, what's the reason that some people are really controlling? Very controlling people have lost control earlier on in their lives. So if you're a teenager and your parents get divorced, that's a major upheaval in your life. If there's bankruptcy, economic bankruptcy, that's loss of control. If you came down with an illness in high school, it was a major illness, that's loss of control. If your boyfriend cheated on you, that's loss of control. So anybody who has experienced some unexpected event and was not able to digest that and come up with the healthy perception is going to be controlling. And very often you're not even aware that you are controlling. For example, anybody who's grown up with an alcoholic is going to be controlling, because living with an alcoholic is very unpredictable. Same with mental disease, okay? Economic bankruptcy, illness. All of these things gave you the message earlier on that the world can turn topsy-turvy without you having any control. The reality is that your ego, your first name and last name, is in charge of very few things. I mean, you can go to your job, you can make money, but all of the big things, like the tsunami, weather, global economic stuff, wars, none of this stuff is under your direct control. And the problem with the ego is it tries to predict exactly what's going to happen today or tomorrow. If we go to the other side of the coin now, the talk today is about how to flow with the day. The only way you can trust and flow with the day and let the events unravel is if you trust that there is some sort of intelligence running this world. And according to quantum physics and the ancient Vedas of India, there is a force of consciousness running this world. So you look out to this prairie, nothing here is dumb, nothing is dead. Everything is alive with consciousness. All the trees are communicating with each other. So is the ecosystem. You mess with one part of the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem falls apart. So everything is intelligent. But you need to experience that directly. If you haven't had a direct experience that you are being protected for your uniqueness, that there is some intelligent force that you can communicate with, if you haven't had that direct experience, it's very difficult for you to wake up, kind of lay into the day, let the events unravel, and for you to trust the fact that you can navigate around the circumstances. How to get that direct experience that you are being protected for your uniqueness and that there is something intelligent, some big hand behind you in life protecting you. The only way is for you to fall into pure consciousness. How does a human being fall into pure consciousness? Mental quietude. Every time your mind quiets down, when you hover above the chit-chat, above the psychobabble, you go into an energy field called pure consciousness. When you're in nature and you're communing with nature and the trees are quieting your mind, you're in pure consciousness. Every time you're mindful of the flow of the breath between, in your nostrils, mindful breathing puts you in pure consciousness. Meditation puts you into pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is thoughtless wisdom, thoughtless intelligence. It's an energy field right above the mental chatter. So yoga, communing with nature, following your breath movement, saying your prayers, saying your mantras, waiting for the next thought that never arrives. If you mind your mind, the mind vanishes. So if you sit there, gaze at your mind and wait for the next thought will never come. That's a field of pure consciousness. So now I'm answering the question. How do I trust the fact that, number one, there is some intelligence running this world? Number two, how do I tune into that so I can flow with my day instead of trying to control the day? And your part is to create enough mental quietude to fall into the energy field of pure consciousness. Prayer, regular meditation, your yoga classes, being out in nature and allowing the trees and the prairie to quiet you down, gazing at your mind, waiting for the next thought. Whenever you gaze at the mind quiets down and you go into pure consciousness. This is a promise I'll make to you. If you get used to putting yourself into that field of mental quietude, and then you start your day by just relaxing into the day, like a leaf that you put on the Colorado River, that leaf is going to have to follow downstream. Your life, your wisest life, is like being like a leaf on the Colorado River. You wake up in the morning, you trust the fact that there's a big hand running this whole thing. That protective hand is going to run away from you if you're fearful and worrisome. So the worst protection you can ever call for is through fear and worry, because this field of consciousness detests distrust. How do you distrust the force of the universe? By being fearful and anxious. In other words, you're broadcasting the message that this is all chaos. I don't trust any force other than my own ego protecting me. And you drive away all grace. However, if you're sane, then you're going to say, Kambiz, prove it to me. How do I collect some evidence that there is a protective hand watching my back? And the only way you can get that proof is to put your mind into a state of pure consciousness. Yoga, meditation, being out in nature, being mindful of your breathing, gazing up at your soul and having a dialogue with your higher self, or staring at the mind, waiting for the next thought, which will never arrive if you're waiting. All of those put you in pure consciousness.